Hi everybody, good morning. We're going to have about a 30-minute or so pretty hip-based practice. It'll be an all levels flow and we'll start in child's pose. So just go ahead and find a comfortable child's pose. So just like always, knees can be together or a bit wider depending. And since we will be focusing again on hips, if you want to take them a little wider, that'll start getting into the hips a little bit. It'll allow us that space to start to settle down in there as well. Makes it a little easier to breathe. And take just a few nice, long, slow, deep breaths right into the back ribs. Notice how the body feels physically, especially if it feels like you're hanging on to any like tension caused by stress. We're in kind of a unique situation that everyone's experiencing some sort of stress, although differently. Just see if you feel any of that so that we can start breathing into it, start releasing that. And then stay with that idea and stay in child's pose too, but let's just take a little side bend in our child's pose, walking both hands over toward the right side of the mat. And then maybe it's just an inch or two, maybe they come off of the mat a little bit. You may need to pick up your head and then set it back down. Just start to lengthen out through the left side body, and it'll depend on where the tension is being held the most as to where you feel this. It could be in the neck, shoulder, rib cage, waist. And then come back through center, and same thing over to the left side of the mat, walking up towards the left upper corner or thereabouts. Just settling in there for a breath or two, noticing maybe if there's a difference between the two sides. And then come back through to center. Take just one more big exhale, sink the chest toward the floor, and then press up to tabletop. So take your time here. We always kind of look at tabletop as just a pose to get us to other poses, but it's a pose in itself. So spread the fingers really wide, intentionally stacking joint on top of joint to create sturdiness. And then with a breath in, drop the belly and look forward for cow pose. And with your exhale, round the spine, coming into cat. Taking a few more, just move at your own pace. See how this feels through the front body and the back. Again, just noticing if there's any tension there. And not to like dwell on that, but just noticing so that we can start to breathe into that. And then next breath in, come to a neutral spine once again. And let's just go right into down dog. So curling the toes and taking the hips up high. Taking any movements that you need to here, kind of working out the kinks, especially through the legs. But same thing though with the back, the neck, the shoulders. Then eventually come back to stillness where both heels sink toward the floor, although they may not touch, that's really normal. Hands firmly pressing into the ground and the chest is pressing back towards the thighs, even if that means a little bit of a bend to the knees. That's okay. And then breathe in, come forward to plank pose. And then exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Let's do it just like that one more time. Breathe in, come forward to plank. And breathe out for down dog. And then come forward again, this time on an inhale, but we'll drop the right knee to the mat and we'll just roll open for a supported side plank. So left hand moves up towards the ceiling. And staying here for just another few breaths. Maybe you even open that left arm back behind you so that the chest lifts up a little higher. And then release, exhale, downward facing dog. We'll hit that other side here in just a moment. Let's instead though, inhale, bend the knees and look forward. And with your exhale or beginning there, just walk the feet up to the top end of the mat, really taking your time. Knees can be softly bent once you reach your forward fold, right? Or they can't even be really bent if that feels better. Letting the head hang and the upper body relax. On an inhale, take a halfway lift, growing a little longer through the legs and the spine. The chest opens, and exhale, forward fold. Breathe in, reach the arms all the way up, standing tall. And then exhale, forward fold right back down to the ground. Halfway lift, inhalation. And on your exhalation, let's just make our way back into plank pose. Let's stay here for 3 or 4 breaths. Staying really conscious of the breath. And even in this posture where just about everything is engaged, noticing if you start experiencing that tension as opposed to engagement, and breathe into that space. With your next exhale, slowly lower all the way down to the belly, and we'll just take a low cobra here. So hands in tight to the chest, just the chest lifts up, elbows can squeeze the ribs, toes stretch backwards. Good, and then taking the forehead down to the ground, curl the toes under here, and we'll press up into either kneeling or full plank. And then take a big breath in. And exhale, downward facing dog. Again, breathe in, come forward, plank pose. This time, left knee will drop down to the ground, and we'll find that supported side plank on the other side. Right hand lifts up, and then maybe you even reach back behind, taking chest up towards the ceiling a little bit more. And releasing both hands to the ground, curling the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale, knees soften, look forward. Exhale, step, walk, or hop to the top end of the mat this time. Halfway lift as you breathe in. And then exhale as you breathe out. Inhale, reach up all the way, stand tall. Exhale, excuse me, fold all the way back down to the ground. Halfway lift, breathe in. And then with an exhale, we'll take plank pose, and we'll pause there again here for just a couple breaths. And next breath in, grow really long, maybe even take that little shift forward to the big toes. Before exhale, bend the elbows, chaturanga. Inhale, scoop the chest up towards the ceiling, cobra or up dog, either one. And then this time, let's drop the knees to the ground and press back, child's pose. Letting the forehead rest down. And take just a few breaths here to, again, check back in and notice. Just notice how the breath is moving, where the heart rate's at, how the body feels. back up through tabletop and to downward facing dog again. Here on an inhale, take your right leg up into the air for three-legged dog. Really pressing out through that right heel. And then let's bend at the knee and tip the hip open so that that right knee lifts way up into the air and it feels like you're stretching your right heel toward your left glute. On an exhale, take your right knee to your left elbow. And then breathe in, reach back up, three-legged dog. Here we'll do kind of the same thing, right knee to left elbow. Let's take that right foot all the way through though, so that the two legs together make kind of a right angle. Right leg is straight. We'll flip to the big toe edge of that back foot and we'll lift the hips up into the air, taking the left hand up into the sky. Sometimes it's called fallen triangle or dancing warrior. It's got a million names. And then release left hand back down. We'll come back up to three-legged dog. Right foot lifts up and back. Taking the right foot forward then for a low lunge. And just drop the right knee to the ground. Let's take a kneeling lunge here instead. So hands can stay down on the ground. They can come up to that front thigh or reach up towards the ceiling. Wherever you are, feel the hips sink in and the spine grow long. Shoulders nice and relaxed. Good, and then we'll step both feet forward to find a forward fold. Let's take the feet about hips width apart and just grab opposite elbows and come into ragdoll here. Feet can even be a little bit wider for more stability. Upper body just hangs nice and loose, and you can stay still or kind of sway from side to side or shift weight from foot to foot. Good. Release the hands down to the ground. Keep the knees at least a little bit bent and roll up to stand. So head will lift up very last. Once it does, the shoulders can roll back and down. Palms face forward for mountain pose. Good, and then breathe in, reach up both arms. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift, breathe in. Take the hands back down to the ground and step the right foot backwards. So we'll come back to a lunge, this time with the right knee lifted off of the ground, left knee stacked on top of the left heel. And then let's take a twist here. We'll lift that left arm up so that the chest is twisting toward the forward thigh. And same thing that we did with our supported side plank. You can either reach straight up and out or maybe take it back behind you just a bit, reaching the chest up towards the ceiling. Left hand comes down to the ground, centering the upper body. Let's drop that back knee again for a kneeling lunge on the other side. We won't really stay this time though. So let's walk the hands backward just a little bit, making sure again that that knee is stacked right on top of the heel. And then this time we're just gonna take the hips backward until the front leg is pretty straight, doesn't have to be complete. Foot flex, toes lifted up, pressing out through the heel, nice and long through the back of that left leg. And then with that idea, we'll move a little bit. So on our inhales, we'll come forward. And then with the exhales, we'll shift backwards. And then just taking a couple more at your own pace here, like that. And then the next time that the hips move backwards, we'll go ahead and stay there. So upper body can stay really lifted. You can always rearrange where the hands are placed. You can fold over further. Just find a comfortable point here. Knee can be as bent as you need it to be. both hands over towards the left side of our mat, and we'll just walk the upper body in that direction. So kind of how we did in that child's pose, continuing to press straight forward and out through the left heel. And then we'll come back forward, bending into that left knee, kneeling lunge. Right toes will curl and we'll lift up for a low lunge. Press down firmly into both hands and tuck that knee up, lifting the foot so that the heel is kicking in towards the left glute. And then we'll take that left foot and we'll place it towards the outside of the mat. Yeah, so toes will turn out, heel will point inward, and we'll just take another version of a supported side plank. So back foot again will swivel down so that the pinky toe edge is pressing into the floor. Right hip is pointed down towards the ground, and we'll lift the left hand up into the air. Creating this nice long line from the right heel through the top of the head. And then to get into the hips a little bit more, or to that right hip specifically, kind of almost like we're just getting lazy in this plank, we'll let the right hip droop down towards the ground, finding this nice big side bend. Release both hands to the mat, stepping both feet back, plank pose. Let's exhale, come all the way down onto the belly, reaching the arms back along the sides. Let's inhale for locust pose this time. Stretching toes back, fingertips back, chest comes forward. Good, nice big deep breaths. And then release down to the ground, hands beneath shoulders, press up and back, child's pose. And take a few deep breaths here. And then lift up through tabletop and come back to down dog. And this time though, we'll take the left leg up into the air. So lifting through the left heel, sinking through the right, we'll bend at the left knee, tipping the hip open so that we feel that whole left side body kind of peel open. On an exhale, we'll take the left knee to the right elbow. And then lift up and back behind. And then same idea, but we'll take this left leg all the way through so that we're making, again, kind of a right angle between the legs. We'll flip to the big toe side of the right foot, and we'll lift the right arm up into the air. Hips pressing high, chest rotated open. And then back to three-legged dog, both hands down, left leg lifts up and back. Exhale, we'll step the left foot all the way through to the top end of the mat, dropping the right knee to the floor. So we'll come into that kneeling lunge, sinking the hips. Again, hands in any position. They can be down, midway, or all the way up. More about the legs though. Getting into that right hip flexor and quad. Shoulders back. Neck nice and soft. Using the hands for support, we'll step forward to a fold. Halfway lift as you breathe in. And fold as you exhale. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up to the sky. And then this time, exhale, take hands to the center of the heart for just a moment. Go ahead and close down the eyes. And take just a few deep breaths here. Really noticing how the weight of the body is pressing into the feet. Like the feet are actively pushing into the ground. But at the same time, the top of the head is lifting up high, creating length and space. And then with your next inhale, take the arms back up overhead, lifting tall. Exhale to a forward fold. Halfway lift, breathe in. Take the hands down to the ground and step backward with the left foot this time. So finding that low lunge, and we'll spin the right arm up into the air. And maybe even rotating that right arm open a little bit so that the chest lifts up. Both hands come down, and we'll drop that left knee. So finding that kneeling lunge, similar to what we were just in, but we'll take the hands backward just a little bit so that we can move easier. And with that, we'll lengthen out the right leg, pushing out through the right heel. And then we'll come back forward to that kneeling lunge. And then again, we'll just move a couple of times at our own pace. So it's always an exhale going backward and an inhale coming forward. And then the next time that the hips move back, we'll go ahead and stay there. So taking a few big breaths to help sink in. And that may mean that the chest physically comes closer to the thigh, or almost like you're reaching the chest towards the toes to maintain that length in the spine. Or maybe the exhales just help us to relax right where we are instead. Both hands will then move to the outside of the right leg while we take the hands all the way over to the right side. Yeah, so we're twisting toward that front leg. That'll increase the stretch through the outside of the right leg, through the IT band a bit. Continue pressing out through the right heel. And then we'll release the hands, rebending into that right knee, returning to a kneeling lunge. We'll curl the back toes, lifting the back knee up off of the ground. We'll find that core engagement by pressing down through the hands, lifting the right foot and drawing the right knee up towards the chest. And then lastly, we'll take that last version of supported side plank. So right foot will move out towards the right, toes out, heel in. We'll flip to the pinky toe side of the left foot, and the right arm will lift up. Hips stay lifted here initially as we lengthen from the top of the head back to the left heel. Taking just another breath there, and then finding a bit more of a side bend and a release through the outer left hip while we let that left hip sag towards the floor. And both hands down to the ground, both feet back in together. This time let's drop to the knees and find child's pose. Just a nice, long, deep breath right into the back of the body. And then lifting up, we'll come down onto our backs here. So as you come down onto your back, we'll go right into bridge pose. We took locust last time. Here we'll just come into a different back bend. So heels below knees, feet and knees hips distance apart, arms at the sides. On a breath in, let's lift the hips up towards the sky. Let's rock the shoulder blades closer together. And then with the arms, they can stay as they are. You can clasp the hands beneath the body. Letting the shoulders press down and the hips and chest lift up. And then slowly coming back down, just rolling nice and easy, one vertebra at a time. And squeeze, once you're there, both knees up into the chest. You're pulling inward to help the low back release. You can stay still or rock a little side to side. And then we'll come into just a nice easy twist, both knees dropping over to the right side. While the left shoulder presses down, maybe the left arm extends outward to help anchor. So both shoulders laying evenly on the floor. Head can stay centered or even maybe turn towards the left a bit. Bring the knees back into the chest. Just pausing here at center for a moment. And then letting the knees both drop over to the other side. So as the knees move to the left, pressing down just as much through the right shoulder. Bringing the knees back to center one last time. Giving a nice big squeeze there. And then finding Shavasana. So as always, your Shavasana can really look however you need it to. And that may mean fully extended or bent at the knees or even curled up. But once you're there, close down the eyes. Focus on softening the muscles of the face, beginning with the area around the eyes. And the forehead, kind of smoothing out the creases. Releasing any tension in the jaw. And letting that same type of relaxation, kind of systematic, piece by piece, move down through the rest of the body. And with your next breath in, just start to gently move through the fingers and the toes. Just allowing little tiny movements to come back into the body first, before bending at the knees. And rolling over to either side in a supported fetal pose. Pausing there just momentarily. And pressing up to a comfortable seat. So once you find just a comfortable seated position, let the eyes remain closed if that feels comfortable, and let the hands come together at the center of the heart. And just as we did when we began, briefly here scan the body and notice if there's any areas of tension still lingering. And take just a breath or two right into those spaces. So if, for example, it's in the shoulders, just letting the shoulders sink down away from the ears with the exhale. Letting a little bit of tension dissipate, and it may not be all, right? It's not an all or nothing type of thing. It's a little by little, chipping away. And take that idea and take that breath with you throughout the rest of your day. And I thank you for allowing me to share in your practice this morning. Namaste.